raised?
$9.2 million as of July, saved for students from all over the world.
Wow, I love it.
My parents live in Dubai, so my dad was in Dubai. It's about 10 hours away from Iowa. 25% of all classroom time, on average, was spent on a digital device for non-educational purposes. And this just blew me away. I was taken aback because this kind of validated everything that I had seen. We launched the application here in Dubai. I came back. I graduated in May of 2017, came back. We incorporated in June, and we launched in September. And I've been working on this even before I graduated as well. But when people think Dubai, and the common stereotype, especially in the West, is that Dubai is this like ultra-rich city, this desert metropolis. Everybody, drives Lamborghinis and has oil fields and this and that. I met someone at a bar once in the US who actually asked me, "How many oil fields does your family own?" And I said, "What?"
Today, we are joined by Craig Fernandes, co-founder and CEO of SecureMyScholarship. It's a platform that has helped students secure over $9.2 million in scholarships. Craig also co-founded Lock&Stock, the UAE's largest student lifestyle platform. He's been recognized by Forbes as one of their 30 under 30, and his journey is a fascinating blend of innovation, grit, and a touch of serendipity. Craig, welcome to the Happy Accidents podcast.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today because, as the audience is going to find out, your journey is one that mimics a lot of the different things that I talk about. Happy accidents happen, randomness happens, serendipity happens. Even the platforms that you've developed have been born out of different serendipitous events. I mean, and we've heard the stories. YouTube started as like a dating site. Twitter started as a podcast platform.
Instagram started as a platform to find bars, I think.
Exactly. And this is how these things typically happen. And there's this, narrative out there that, oh no, you got to sit down, you got to write a 20-page business plan, you got to have everything figured out, you got to count. It just doesn't work that way. You have an idea, you have a plan, and then stuff happens and you pivot. So I'm excited for people to hear about you and about your story and the pivots that you've had and how happy accidents have played a role along the way. So before we dive into the amazing platforms you built, tell us a bit about your journey. What sparked your entrepreneurial spirit in the first place?
So Secure My Scholarship actually is our second startup, and actually is a pivot from our first startup, which was Lock&Stock. Now, I'm 28 years old, and I've been at this for about 7 years, and I actually got the idea for Lock&Stock originally, which began the entire journey, when I was a college student myself. I was 21 years old at the time, so way back when. Just a quick explainer for anybody listening, Lock&Stock, when it was around, was a mobile application that basically rewarded students for staying off their phones when they were in class. You went to class, you locked your phone, you got a bunch of rewards, and you could then use your rewards for offers and discounts at our partners. That was the platform that we built. It was tremendously popular when it was around. I got the idea for Lock&Stock when I was in college. One random day, this was way back in 2017, I was a student at the University of Iowa in the US, and I was studying economics, majored in economics when I was at university. So one day I'm in a lecture, it's an econ lecture, and econ lectures are, I love economics, but economics can be a little dry, a little boring sometimes personally. So I'm in the class and whatever is going on, the professor's talking, there's about 30, 35 kids in the classroom. And, it was a little dry, it was a little boring, and I was doing well in the class anyway. It was on my phone, I was, using my phone a little bit, I was on WhatsApp, I was talking to some people, not really paying much attention. And around that time, my dad actually came to message me. Now, my parents live in Dubai, so my dad was in Dubai. It's about 10 hours away from Iowa. And he comes to message me on WhatsApp, probably to say goodnight or something like that. But he comes to message me, and on WhatsApp, it says online when you're actually using the application. So he comes to message me, sees that I'm online, and, he's just like, why are you online right now? It's the middle of the day. It's noon. Why are you online? Shouldn't you be in class? And I'm like, I am in class, but it's kind of boring, and I'm doing pretty well in this class, so it's okay. And then he just takes off, right? He's like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're not learning anything. anything. You're wasting my money. As he should, as he should. We go back and forth for a little bit. And then finally, he gets his way and I put my phone aside. And I don't know what happened. Like in that moment, I think like a light bulb went off. It was kind of like a eureka moment, honestly. But I look around the classroom and there are like 30, 35 kids in the class, and each and every single one of them is on their phone or on their laptop or on their tablet, and everybody's looking down, and the poor professor is just talking and talking and talking, because I mean that's his job and he's paid to do that. So he's going to teach whether people are listening or not. I look around this classroom and no one is looking up, no one is taking any notes, no one is doing anything. And I thought to myself, like, damn, like this might actually be a problem. I was intrigued by what I saw. So I went home that day and did a whole bunch of research, right? And again, like keep in mind, this is all the way back in 2017. And today, everybody knows about like social media addiction, and every once in a while you'll come across like a newspaper article about a restaurant that makes you like put your phone in like a jar or something like that. So everybody knows about this today. But back in 2017, nobody really knew about any of this stuff. So I'm on Google, I do some research, and I think on like page 4 of Google, I found this research report from a team at the University of Wisconsin, psychology team at the University of Wisconsin, which they basically studied human tendencies towards their phones. They studied digital addiction, as it was now being called in 2017. They were studying this phenomenon, and their hypothesis at the end of the paper was that 25% of all classroom time on average was spent on a digital device for non-educational purposes. And this just blew me away. I was taken aback because this kind of validated everything that I had seen. And I was like, okay, wow, like there's like empirical evidence for this. There's people who've done research and whatever. This actually is a real problem. So then I was like, okay, fine, like this is a real problem. No one's doing anything about this. And if I saw it in my economics lecture, I'm sure it's happening in every other classroom at the university. I'm sure it's happening at every other university in America and around the world. So, how do we tackle this? So whatever, I was kind of like sketching out some ideas and blueprinting some stuff. And I was just kind of running things by my buddies. And, I was kind of like, what do we do? How do we build this out? Now, if you make an application that tells people to stay off their phones, no one's going to use it, right? Because that's boring. And these are college students, so they are definitely not going to use it. So I'm talking to some of my friends. We're kind of brainstorming. We're spitballing ideas. And then somebody, one of my friends actually went, again, keep in mind, we're final year college students. We're broke. We have no money. So one of my friends actually goes, man, honestly, if you gave me like a half off or 50% off at the Papa John's, I'd keep my phone away. And I was just like, man, that's brilliant. Like, that's amazing. And we took that idea and we ran with it. 6 months later, we launched the application on September 24th. This all happened around like March, sorry. In September 24th, 2017, we launched the application, and then the rest is history.
I love it. Just the whole genesis of that story. First of all, you're in class, you're on your phone, you're busted by your dad. Why the heck are you on your phone? You should be studying, you should be in class, you should be working. That causes you to then realize maybe this is actually a bigger widespread problem. A little bit of research and you're like, yeah, this is actually huge. This is an epidemic. There's an idea here. And this is where a lot of businesses are born, right? You recognize a problem. Okay, how do we solve this problem? You wrestle with that for a while until there's a light bulb moment of, hey, what if we reward them? Nobody just wants to stay off their phone because they understand they need to, they should, but why? What's in it for me? And it was that idea
how can we make it fun? How can we make it emotional? Yeah. You won't even imagine, like a couple of months after we launched, we'd get so many messages from students messaging us or emailing us or hitting us up on Instagram, on our social handles or whatever. And they're telling us, wow, like my grades are going up. Wow, I'm doing better in class. Wow, I'm paying more attention. And we were just, again, blown away because we launched the application to solve a problem. We wanted to make it fun. And if we can help someone live a better life or a more productive life and also have them enjoy themselves while doing it, I mean, that's the best of all worlds.
So was Papa John's your first kind of collaborator partnership there?
I wish. So Papa John's is actually not so big here in Dubai. So we launched the application here in Dubai. Or I came back. I graduated in May of 2017, came back. We incorporated in June and we launched in September. And I've been working on this even before I graduated as well. But I basically put together a core team of people here in Dubai. And the reason for that is very, very simple. When you launch a startup, your odds of success are already in the single digits. I think 90 something percent of startups fail in their first year. So when launching this, I kind of wanted to launch it in an environment that I really understood, where my network ran deepest, if anything. And that's so as control as much of the environment as we could. So came back to Dubai, we launched in Dubai. Papa John's is not that big in Dubai, so it wasn't our first partner. When we went live on September 24th, 2017, we had 13 partners and 24 offers. By the end of the year, we had 100 partners. By the end of 2018, so about 15 months later, we had over 1,000 partners on the platform in Dubai. You couldn't go 2 minutes without finding a lock-and-stock partner at that time. And man, even with that, so we launched in September 2017. We had 13 partners to launch with. Getting those partners in the beginning was such a struggle because, again, keep in mind, I'm just going to just take you back in time. I'm 21 years old. I look kind of young even today, but back then I looked even younger. I have no facial hair. I was 21 at the time, but I maybe looked like I was 17 or something like that. So now we're scheduling meetings with all these marketing managers and marketing directors to go in to pitch them this flashy new application, never been done before in Dubai. And, they're in the meetings, a conference room full of people. And lo and behold, this really young kid really walks into the meeting. And these guys, you should have seen the look on their faces. They're looking at me and they're just going, okay, like we thought we were meeting with the CEO and the co-founder, why is the intern here? I'm just like, no, I'm here for the meeting. but yeah, we did.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
So September of 2017, you're this baby-faced CEO co-founder. You get 13 partners on board. You get a little bit of momentum. How did you then keep that more momentum or even gain it? How did you get more partners? How did you get the word of mouth out there that, hey, this is something that different universities should be encouraging their students to use?
So in terms of momentum, man, actually, what we actually saw was a snowball effect, right? So whether, we hadn't even planned this out, but actually we allocated like a decent amount for marketing and we planned out like a cost of user acquisition and this and that and whatever. But what actually happened was a flywheel began to form, and I'd never even heard of the word flywheel before we launched this. And basically, as we got partners, we got more students. As we got more students, we had more redemptions. As we got more redemptions, we got more partners, and then on and on. And that wheel just began to turn faster and faster. But actually, what happened was, fast forward from September, about 10 months later, and we have this thriving application. We have, at that point in time, I think, this is May of 2018. We have about 25,000 students on the platform, and that's a lot. Keep in mind, our target demographic are just high school and university students. Dubai is not a big city by any means, perhaps the size of maybe a Miami, perhaps. So it's not one of your like massive, like 10, 15 million person cities. Pretty small, right? Like 2-3 million people. And so there are only 250,000 odd students in high school and college. We had 10% of them on the application using the app every week, which is huge, literally, by any market penetration standard. We had these 25,000 students. We had, I think at that point in time, it was like 500 or something partner brands. This thriving ecosystem running. The only problem was that we weren't really making much money, right? So at the end of the day, like for us to stay in business, an idea is cool and everybody loved it, but we weren't really making that much money. People were coming on the platform, but they weren't really paying us that much. And students, it was free for students anyway. So we got to a point in like May of 2018 where now we're 3 months away from bankruptcy. We're about to run out of cash. We've built this amazing ecosystem. What are we gonna do, right? If we don't start generating cash, how do we pay our AWS bills and keep everything online? How do we keep the lights on? And so all of that stuff. So around that time, we're speaking to our partners and we're telling them, listen, you gotta up your rates. And they're just like, yeah, I don't know. I remember speaking to McDonald's, and McDonald's is one of our partners, one of our big partners that we had. And McDonald's said, come back to us when you've got 200,000 students, 20,000 a little small for us. We're just like, man, come on. We're speaking to another cinema chain, and the cinema chain tells us, our marketing focus is really families. So, that's really where our budget is dedicated to. We're just like, man, come on. So these are the responses that we're getting. And keep in mind, we're making these guys tens of thousands of dirhams or, thousands of dollars every month in redemptions. $1 is 3 dirhams, but thousands of dollars per month in terms of redemptions. And we're telling them, man, we're making you thousands of dollars, time for you guys to give back a little bit. But whatever, those conversations were ongoing. And around that time, actually, around those conversations, we're speaking to to a number of other people as well. We said to ourselves, okay, the partners are the beating heart of this ecosystem. Who's going to pay us? Can we speak to driving institutes, or can we speak to maybe laptop retailers? Guys like maybe like an Asus or a Lenovo or an HP. People want to sell laptops to college students. I don't know, right? We're just spitballing ideas at this point in time. And around that time, something very lucky just happens, which goes into shape our 2018 and really the future of everything after that as well. A university actually got in touch with us. They reached out to us and they said, hey, we've heard about you guys. You guys are pretty popular. They said all of our students on our campus are using your application. And they said, listen, we're a university. We want students. You guys have a lot of students. How can we work together? Now, never in our wildest dreams had we ever planned on working with any university. If you asked us to draw up a business plan when we launched, and even if we created 1,000 iterations of that business plan, we never would have had any version which ever mentioned university or higher education. Like, it just wasn't something we were thinking about. But the university said, we want students and we'll pay you. And at that point in time, we are desperate. Like, we are weeks away from running out of cash. So we told the university, okay, fine. Like, we'll run a campaign for you. We're not going to give you any student details because that's rubbish. And we don't want to do that as well. But we run a campaign for you. And then any students who apply, pay us like a cost per lead generated or something like that. To which they say no. So we said, okay, fine. Then what do you have in mind? And they said, we'll pay you a cost per conversion, which means that student has to not only apply through the promotion, then go on to convert for that university, and then they'll pay us. Now, what the hell does this mean? Right? We are a bunch of 20-year-olds who've never worked in higher education before. We don't know what this attrition funnel looks like. We don't know what the process is. We don't know what the steps are. We don't know anything, literally. But as they say, man, beggars can't be choosers. So we said, okay, fine. We'll run this campaign for you, but you have to give us something. So we told them, you pay us something. That's fine. You pay us. But aside from that, give us something for us to give our students. Theoretically, when a student applies to Tim Hortons on the application, another one of our big partners that we had, when a student applied to Tim Hortons on the application, they're going to buy one, get one free at Tim Hortons. Similarly, for your university, give us like a 20,000 dirham like bursary or a fee waiver that we can then pass on. And then we'll integrate it into the application. So it doesn't seem like an ad. It seems like a native part of the application. We were just shooting in the dark. Even if they said no, we'd still run the campaign anyway because we had no choice. But to our surprise, they said yes. And we ran that campaign. We started that campaign. It got confirmed on July 27th, 2018. We launched it on August 1st, 2018. And we had 1 month, like that's it, like a 1 month campaign. It was do or die. We had 6 weeks until we ran out of cash. So 1 month campaign, that's 4 weeks. The only thing that we had going for us as well, by the end of those 4 weeks, we had generated about $50,000 in revenue for the company, basically saved the company through that campaign. Also discovered a business model, which then from that university and this campaign with that 20,000 dirham scholarship, we added more universities, more scholarships. Eventually, we built an entire scholarships section on the application, which went along with our offer section, which then began to really outpace our offer section as well. And eventually, in 2021, we made a decision to take that scholarship section on the Lock&Stock app and just spin that off into a standalone startup, which today is called SecureMyScholarship. And that's really how that shaped the future of the company, really.
I love it. And this is a great lesson for first-time entrepreneurs out there starting a startup, building an app. You hear all these stories and it looks glamorous. And here you guys are, by some measures, being very successful. Like, you're getting 10% of the student population is using your application. You're getting some major partners on board. Tim Hortons, McDonald's, like, that sounds like the dream. Only it's not producing the cash flow you need. At the end of the day, that's the be all end all, right? Now, you do hear stories as well about, well, so-and-so platform didn't make money for years, but they secured all kinds of funding, and that's what kept them afloat. I'm assuming you guys made the decision, we don't want to go down that road. We don't want investors. We want to bootstrap this thing. Was that kind of your plan from the beginning?
No, that was not our plan, right? Our plan, there's a quote that I like, right? Mike Tyson once said, everybody's got a plan until you're punched in the face. Our plan was the traditional, right? Because I think everybody today, like startups are like rock bands and entrepreneurs are like rock stars. And everybody reads about them on like LinkedIn or in the news or TechCrunch or on TechCrunch or wherever. And everybody thinks that their startup story is going to be like that. So when we launched Lock&Stock, our aim was to hit certain parameters, then raise a boatload of funding and then scale it from there. Things didn't didn't play out that way. And it didn't play out that way for a very, very simple reason. The startup ecosystem in Dubai is much more nascent, I think is the right word, compared to San Francisco or New York or London or wherever. So I remember, early 2018, we're reaching out to a lot of people trying to raise capital. We're reaching out to a lot of people. We're sending our pitch deck. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're doing a lot trying to raise capital. And the response that we got from everybody is, we only invest in Series A startups. So minimum ticket size of like $1 million or thereabout. Or they came back to us and they said, come back to us when you've generated, $100,000 in revenue. We don't look at anything below that. And we're just like, man, we're not at those levels yet. So what the hell do we do? And our original plan kind of went out the window and we just had to figure it out along the way. A lot of people, so today we actually, based on this experience from 2017, 2018, 2019, whatever, like those early years, it actually instilled a sort of financial discipline in us, which I actually value a lot today. There are a lot of startups which raise a ton of capital and then burn it as fast as they raise it and have to raise more, or they shut down, or they lay off their team members or whatever. Very, very proud of the fact that here at, SMS, today now Secure My Scholarship, everybody here has been working with the company for many years. We have great longevity, great tension, and that just comes from astute financial planning, right? So how can we grow very rapidly in the triple digits? How are we like doubling or more every year? But we're also balancing the books. And I think that came from those initial years. But today, we've raised over $1.2 million in capital. As per our last funding round, we're valued at $6 million. And based on our projections, we should be on course to raise a full Series A next year, which values the company hopefully at somewhere between $25 to $35 million or thereabouts. And then we take it from there. But a question that I do get asked a lot by a lot of people, especially when I speak at like conferences and on panels and wherever, is a lot of people ask me, Craig, like, how did you guys raise funding? Like, are there any tips? So can you share anything for me? What I tell people, honestly, and the God honest answer is, just be ready to be told no like 100 times, basically, because that's what we had to go through. I have at least, I think 100 is actually putting it lightly. I think there's at least like 300 rejection emails that I received, or meetings, or phone calls, or whatever, before we signed our first term sheet. And that's what we had to go through. And it's a process, it's a journey, it's a struggle, but you have to go through it.
I guess you got to develop that thick skin and not take it personally and just keep persevering. So I just want to recap for a second, because then I want to dive into Secure My Scholarship a little more. So this all starts with a random WhatsApp message from your dad when you're supposed to be in class paying attention. Sparks the idea. You get a group of guys together, you develop Lock&Stock, and you start seeing some early success, but the cash isn't there. That's happy accident number one. You get the idea from this random event, you run with it, you start to see some success. The cash starts running out though. Happy accident two comes along. Random outreach from a university saying, hey, how about we try this? Was not in your plans, was not on your radar. In fact, you're more concerned at this point about how do we monetize this better? And that prompts you to come back with a suggestion to them. Hey, how about you pay us X and we do that? Turns out this was an amazing pivot, which started the idea for Secure My Scholarship. So now you're a few years in, you're a couple happy accidents in, you've learned a ton. You're now in the startup ecosystem. You're learning about how do you raise money? How do you get momentum? How do you get partners on board? So now Secure My Scholarship is born. You have a more proven business model. How did you ramp that up?
So actually backtracking a little bit from there, I think happy accident number 3 actually was just, one day we're looking at, because keep in mind again, like Lock&Stock, when it was in its form, was an incredibly Dubai focused application. And the reason for that was because the value proposition was hyper localized, right? You had to be able to go to the cinema near your house to use your rewards. So we had a lot of partners in Dubai, and therefore we had a lot of students in Dubai. The moment you went outside Dubai, even to other cities in the UAE, the number of students reduced because the number of partners reduced. The moment you left the UAE, the number of students were next to negligible because we barely had any international part. And so that's kind of how Lock&Stock was, or the ecosystem was at that point in time. One day, we looked at our data, and I think this is around like 2020, I think, like 2 years after like whatever we had first begun to monetize. Now we're adding universities, and that's kind of rolling, whatever. Around like 2020-ish, we look at our data, and now suddenly we see all of these students from India, from Pakistan, from Sri Lanka, from Bangladesh, from Egypt, from Jordan, from Saudi, from other countries countries. And we were very surprised. Like, we were just like, why are these guys here? Like, there's the offers that we have don't apply to these guys. What the hell are these guys doing on the application? So we dove a little deeper and we looked at their usage history, yada, yada. And what we realized was that, again, contrary to all of our plans and whatever, cinema is a very popular cinema chain here. Forget about cinemas. Kareem is the most popular, like, is the Uber of the UAE. And McDonald's, whatever, here in Dubai, and Tim Hortons and whatever. Those are all focused on UAE because we have UAE agreements. But those are localized. A university scholarship is not localized. And a university scholarship is something that can appeal across borders. Whether we're working with a university in Dubai or in Canada or in the USA or in the UK or wherever, there are students from all over the world who want those scholarships and who want to go. And we're looking at this usage history for these users, and we're noticing a pattern. Like, more than anything else, the bulk of their usage was in locking their phones, collecting rewards, and applying for scholarships. And we thought to ourselves, okay, fine. Wow, that's very, very interesting. Have we stumbled upon something much bigger than what we had initially planned on doing? Helping students stay off their phones is amazing. I love all of the work that we did with Lock&Stock. In our 4 years with Lock&Stock, we accounted for over 2 million years of cumulative time spent offline. 2 million years that we put back in the hands of teachers, professors, educators, and students themselves, helping improve learning outcomes for a lot of students. And I'm very, very proud of that. But that compared to helping make education accessible and affordable, helping provide transparency and efficiency in the scholarship discovery process, helping people save tens of thousands of dollars on their higher education, we said to ourselves, this is a much larger mission. We can really fundamentally change people's lives. And this is scalable as well, right? So we can build a platform and get partners and really, really get tens of thousands of users or hundreds of thousands of users from across the world using this platform, applying for scholarships. Let's focus on this. And that's why in 2021, about a year later, of course, our revenue model also revolved around scholarships as well. So in 2021, we said, okay, let's kind of wind down operations for Lock&Stock and let's build a standalone platform for Secure My Scholarship with really just taking our scholarship section and spinning that out and just building a standalone platform. I must tell you, man, honestly, like when we did this, the amount of hate mail or angry messages that we got from students when we wound down Lock&Stock, I think to this day, there are still people, when we log in a Lock&Stock's Instagram account or whatever, once every 6 months just to see what's going on, with messages from students from like a week ago or a month ago going like, we love this platform, why'd you shut it down? Can you bring it back to this day? So
yeah. I just love that in both cases, they're purpose-driven applications. There's a bigger purpose here. Hey, how much better would the education experience be if you're not distracted by your phone, especially during class with your dad finding out that you're doing it, right? How much better of an experience is that for teachers or students, just all around, if you can be more present? And then in the case of Secure My Scholarship, boy, tuition at post-secondary educations is getting to the point where it's out of reach for so many people. And yet
it's ridiculous.
It opens up so many, yes, but so many people need that to, continue on with their lives and to thrive and to really get those jobs that are going to allow them to see their full potential. But if they can't even get to the school, they can't even get that education, that opportunity's gone. So in both cases, you're really opening up doors for people. You're making a better experience. You're creating opportunities. And I think that also is a great lesson for new entrepreneurs. A lot of times you'll see a new platform or a new business or a new idea that's more around, oh, I think this is cool. Oh, I think this is a flashy new toy. I want to build this. I think this would be cool to dig into. In your case, it was, these are problems we're solving and people need this. Massive difference there.
Yeah, man, absolutely. 100%. I think the main issue with a lot of startups, and especially startups that I guess don't kind of go the distance, is two things. Number one, are you actually solving a real problem that people have, right? Like, is this a real problem? Or, is it just like, okay, fine, you've invented a better mousetrap? Or do people really face this issue in their daily lives? I think that's number one. And number two is, man, do you care about this problem? Do you really want to solve this problem? That's what actually got us through a lot of the stuff, right? So as I said earlier, we've been doing this for 7 years. In those 7 years, we've had incredible highs and terrible lows. We've had situations where we were a couple of months, or we've had situations where we were 3 weeks away from running out of cash. We had to raise capital. 1 week out from raising the capital, everything is done. Term sheets are signed. Existing investors rip up those term sheets, say we don't like this. We can't go ahead. In many situations, that's traumatic. That's very, very difficult. How do you persevere through that, right? If you don't care deeply about the problem that you are solving, then in those situations when it's really difficult and you're not going to sleep, you're not getting any sleep at night, and you're working 120 hours a week, and not just you, your entire team is working 120 hours a week, you don't make it through those situations. You put your hands up and you say, man, this is too much, literally, and I can't do it. That comes from a lack of conviction, I usually see. On that note, actually, like with what we're doing with Secure My Scholarship, man, personally speaking, for myself and also for many of our other team members, we genuinely love the work that we're doing. To tell you why, actually, I was born in Dubai. I'm Indian by nationality, but I was born in Dubai. My parents moved here in the early 90s looking for work, like a lot of other people at that time. If you come to Dubai, I don't know if have you been to Dubai, Dennis? Just if I had to
I have
ask.
not, no.
Okay, you should. Fantastic city, you should.
You
But
already
if you
sold
come
me
to Dubai,
because there's Tim Hortons there and I'm Canadian, so I'm already like, hey, at least if I get there, I know my coffee's there for me.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. But if you come to Dubai, what you would notice is that 90% of people here are not actually from the UAE. They're actually just immigrants or expats who are here looking to work and looking for a better life. My parents were just like that. They came here in the early 90s looking for work, looking for jobs because there were no jobs back home. And I was born in Dubai in 96. When people think Dubai, and the common stereotype, especially in the West, is that Dubai is this like ultra rich city, this desert metropolis. Everybody, drives Lamborghinis and has oil fields and this and that. I met someone at a bar once in the US who actually asked me, how many oil fields does your family own? And I said, what? Is that what you think everybody is in Dubai?
Oh boy.
But it is what it is, right? So that's the stereotype about Dubai. And Dubai's done very, very well marketing themselves that way. But my Dubai is not that Dubai. Like that's not my experience of Dubai. I grew up on the outskirts of the city in a small, tiny apartment that cost us about $1,400 a year in rent. That was our rent growing up, yeah. And it wasn't even like just the first couple of years or whatever. Like we lived there until 2009. So only about like 10 or 12, 15 years ago, thereabouts. I was 13 when we moved out. So really my formative years were, growing up like on the outskirts, this, that, pretty shitty neighborhood, a small rundown apartment, all of that stuff, whatever. Like that's how I came up. And when I reached high school, I told my parents, my parents asked me, like, what are your plans? What do you want to do for university? And I told them I wanted to go to the US, right? That was my dream. I wanted to study in the US. Whether, that's the right dream, wrong dream, whatever, that was my dream. So I told them I want to study in the US, and they told me, Craig, listen, we'd love for you to study in the US, but it's really expensive and we don't think we can afford it. And that was the conversation that I had with my parents, and I was in 10th grade at the time, and that was the conversation that I had with my parents. But I said, you know what, like, let me see what happens. Let me try, let me see what happens. Whatever, we'll roll the dice. We'll see. Worst comes to worst, maybe I'll study here in Dubai, maybe I'll go back to India. I don't know. But let me try at least. And from there on in, I worked extremely hard in high school. I graduated top of my class, straight A student, valedictorian. I was on the football team, the cricket team, the swimming team, did all of that stuff, put together this rock solid, volunteered a bunch, put together this rock solid college application, applied to a bunch of universities, 12 universities all over the US. I got into, I think, 11 out of those 12 as well. It didn't matter because I still couldn't afford them until the University of Iowa actually got back and said, hey, Craig, you seem like a great student. We'd love for you to come and study over here and we'll give you a scholarship and we'll give you some financial aid. And, why don't you come and study with us? And that combined with, some savings, a little bit of loan and whatever, made it possible for me to actually go and study at the University of Iowa. So that's my personal connection with what we do here at Secure My Scholarship. But that's my story, just like myself on the team as well. We all come from similar backgrounds and they all have similar stories as well. There's a guy on the team whose parents had to sell their their car to raise the cash to send him to university, good university that he could actually thrive in. So that's just what we all had to go through. And because of that, I think for all of us, we genuinely love what we do here at SMS, that Secure My Scholarship. And that makes all the difference.
I love that. I mean, you hit the nose right on the head. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, especially in those early startup years where there's so much work involved, so much to learn, so much momentum to try and build, if you're not passionately attached to what you're building and it's not purpose driven, you're going to burn out, you're going to fail. So in your case, in both cases, you were passionate about the problem that you were solving. You've experienced both of those problems yourself and personally and with the team as well. And the results you can see are there, right? In the case of Lock&Stock, millions of hours saved from time,
Millions
people
of
spending
millions of years saved.
millions of years. Yeah, sorry, millions of years. And in the
Right.
case of Secure My Scholarship, millions of dollars
Yeah,
raised.
$9.2 million as of
Yeah.
July, saved for students from all over the world.
Wow, I love it. And in both cases, these are just things that kind of landed in your lap. Now, I want to phrase that correctly. I don't want people to get the wrong
Landed
idea.
in your lap makes it sound a little easier than it was. It was
Yes,
incredibly
yes,
difficult.
yes.
But I think we were incredibly fortuitous to do the things that we did, and a lot of things had to happen the right way. There's another thing that I like, honestly, and it is luck is where opportunity meets preparation. So
Yes.
we kept at it every day. We paid our dues every day. We ran the 100 yards every day, and eventually, on one fine day, the stars aligned for us, and something clicked. So we had to go through a lot of shit for us to
Yes.
then actually strike that. And I think that's really where luck then manifests itself. For
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I had Matt Watkinson on the podcast a few episodes ago. So if you're not familiar with him, he's written several best-selling books, but he also is a founder himself. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Methodical, where they do consulting for businesses. He started off as a customer
Nice.
experience guy, and he wrote a book called The 10 Pin Principles Behind Great Customer Experiences. And here it is. Here's the 10 things you need to do, and voila, you're going to have a great customer experience. The next book he wrote after that, another bestseller, was called The Grid, and it was more of a here's a holistic view of your business. All these things need to kind of be done together, and this is how they impact each other. And it was kind of like an engineer's view of business. And here's the levers you need to pull, and have, again, very scripted. Here's exactly what you do. Only for him to come to the realization that's not actually how it works. Like there is no blueprint that you just follow and rinse and repeat. You're going to have a successful business. There's way too many factors out there. You can't plan for everything. So many things are outside of your control. And you actually, yes, you need to have a strategy, and yes, you need to put in the work, but then you need to be open. What am I actually seeing? What is the market actually telling me? I need to be ready to pivot. I need to be doing things to increase my luck surface area. And then I need to be ready to capitalize them and abandon the plan if and when that's needed. So that came his next book, Mastering Uncertainty, where he dives into that and says, actually, I may have been wrong in my last two books. Here's what I've actually discovered about how the world of business works. Has that kind of been your experience as well?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think there is no clear-cut formula. I think every successful company is successful in their own unique, distinct way. And I think that's just something that everybody has to understand. There is no formula. There is no 1 + 2 = 3. It's never that simple. Otherwise, everybody would do it. And I think you just have to make your peace with that. I think that plans, strategies, all of those things, processes, all of those things are variable. I think they will change day in, day out. But I'll give you an example, right? So when we were first getting started, and my designation may say co-founder, CEO, all of this stuff, whatever, all of that fancy stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm really just a sales guy. I like to pick up the phone, I like to call people, I like to sell them, whether it's brands or universities, whether I'm pitching shareholders, investors, whoever, right? But very early on, when we were first pitching brands for Lock&Stock, every week I'd call 150 brands, 200 brands every week. We signed at its peak when Lock&Stock really peaked in terms of number of partnerships. We had 1,500 brands. A lot of people say, wow, that's amazing, 1,500. But what people don't know is that I probably spoke with 30,000 brands to get those 1,500. And that's behind the scenes, right? But as I'm calling these brands every week, I had a sales script or a pitch that I would kind of use when I call them. And then based on feedback or how the pitches were going or whatever, I'd sort of tweak it day in, day out. Pitch changed. My call times changed. How I introduce myself changed. My process changed. But the only thing that remains constant is your motivation level. You just have to find a way to motivate yourself and maintain that day in, day out. So what I would do was I'd have like a list of 10 brands, of which Tim Hortons was one of them. But I'd have 10 brands along with 9 others. Just I call them like big hitters, basically. Brands who would really move the needle in terms of word of mouth, in terms of exposure, awareness, whatever. Brands that would get students saying, wow, this brand is on this application. I need this. I had a list of 10 brands and I stuck it on my wall. That's it. And I call them twice a week. I call them twice a week, every single week. Pick up, don't pick up, tell me to F off, no problem. But I'll call you every single week until you come on the platform. For some of them, it took them 2 months. For some of them, it took them 4 months. The longest took 8 months of calling every single week. But eventually, all 10 of them came on board. And that's just a very, very important lesson, right? Like you have to find a way to remain focused, stay motivated. Everything else can change. I'd call them every week and pitch them a different thing. Like how I pitch them a change every week. But every week, regardless of whatever, I call these guys because we needed them. And yeah, right? So everything else is variable. Your motivation and that focus and that dedication, that has to remain week in, week out. There's no flexibility in terms of that %.
Yeah, I love it. So as we've discussed, there is no perfect plan. You can't just sit down and write, a 20-page business plan and execute it and you're going to be guaranteed success. There's also no such thing as just pure blind luck. You're not just sitting on the couch one day and the perfect idea lands in your lap and you're perfectly equipped to capitalize on that and everything works out miraculously. It's this messy middle where preparation meets opportunity. You have to set the stage. You got to have the passion. You got to be out there doing the work. In your case, I think you said you graduated with 5 degrees, right? 1 major, 4 minors. You put in the work. You're out there calling. You're out there doing. And then these opportunities land in your lap. Some of them expected, some of them unexpected. But then you have to be open and ready to capitalize on those when they do. That's kind of the messy recipe that you see most successful entrepreneurs, athletes, actors, businesses, whatever go through. It's this, if I can go back and see what happened, it wasn't planned, but here's what I did to have those opportunities come my way. Here's what I was doing to increase my luck surface area. Here's the unexpected opportunities that came my way because of that. And then here's how I recognized and capitalized on those. And I just love that that's exactly your story with several happy accidents mixed in along the way and two different platforms that you've developed. So I just want to end off with a couple of things here, Craig. One, if you could give one piece of advice to another 20-year-old Craig, like you were back in your shoes, you're in university, you're kind of like trying to figure out your path. You maybe have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. What would you say to somebody in that situation?
That's a great question, man. And that's actually what I wanted to end off with as well. I think, we spoke a lot about, okay, fine, like how did I get the idea and how do we get rolling and how do we monetize and how do we pivot and all of that stuff, Lock&Stock, SecureMyScholarship, all of that stuff. But I actually think the biggest happy accident was just, actually just getting off the ground and just actually making the decision to launch this itself all the way back in 2017. Ideas are cheap. Execution is actually difficult. And I remember my advice to any other entrepreneur, especially young entrepreneurs who are 19 or 20 or 21 or in that age range, young entrepreneurs. My advice to you is just believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself. When I was 21, and it was April, May, thereabouts 2017, I graduated in May. I had the idea in March, and I was working on it for a couple of months, but I still had to take that leap of faith. And conventional wisdom was don't do it. All of the professors I spoke to in university said, don't do it. Go and work, get some experience, and then try your hand at a startup or whatever. My mother told me, don't do it. This is a big risk. Work for some time, get a master's degree, and then try your hand at a startup or something like that. And that was just, all of the feedback. If I spoke to 100 people then, 99 told me, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, literally. And at the same time, I had interviews set up. There were companies who wanted to hire me. I was a pretty good student, as you said earlier. earlier, 5 degrees, 3.9 GPA. That's pretty good. There were companies who wanted to hire me, a couple of interviews set up, a couple of offers. So just weighing all these things. But at the end of the day, if you're a young entrepreneur and you're in a similar scenario, my advice to anybody in that situation is just believe in yourself, because even if you fail, you will learn so much, and job offers and all of that stuff, that's not going anywhere. You can always go back to that. But the idea that you have, and the dream that you have, the idea that you have, that might not be possible 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, 4 years from now. So just do it. If you believe in it, if you care about this, if you're really solving a problem that you really personally care about, just do it. Believe in yourself and do it. That's the one advice that I like to give any entrepreneur.
Love that. What a great way to end that off. Craig, we're going to put in the show notes how people can connect with you on like LinkedIn or Instagram if they want to learn more about Secure My Scholarship. We'll put the website, SecureMyScholarship.com, or if they want to follow that on LinkedIn. All those links will be in the show notes. So I'm hoping this sparks a lot of people to dig in a little more, learn a little more about Secure My Scholarship, get on board with what you're doing, and blow this up even more, because this is a huge problem, a huge issue that you guys are tackling. Thank you for sharing your insights. Just perfect example your journey is of how serendipity combined with hard work and vision and purpose can lead to some pretty remarkable stuff. So if you're listening, whether you're a student, you're an entrepreneur, or you're just looking for a bit of inspiration, Craig's story is a reminder to just stay open to opportunities, because you never know where they might lead. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Dennis. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.